And he's like, "Hey, do you think you would want to come like play with the Foo Fighters maybe?" And I was like, let me check my schedule." Yeah.
Welcome back to Foos Files, the podcast for fans of the Foo Fighters. Hope you're all doing well. It's Dan here, and we've got a really special interview for you this week with a multi-instrumentalist who has appeared with the Foo Fighters quite extensively, both live and in the studio. The person I'm talking about, of course, is the one and only Jessy Greene. As well as appearing on Wasting Light and Concrete and Gold, playing the violin and the cello, as well as doing some backing vocals, she also toured with the band a lot from the Echo Silence, Patience and Grace era onwards, when they sort of kind of spreading their wings really and performing as an expanded lineup. And on top of all that, Jessy has a close working relationship with Rami Jaffee that goes back quite a number of years. And that includes some new material that they've been working on, so she tells us a bit about that too. So let's get straight to it. Joining us on the Foos Files podcast from Venice Beach in California, the wonderful Jessy Greene.
But let me introduce you to fucking Miss Jessy Greene that plays the strings and things. Over there, Jessy Greene!
Jessy, thank you for coming onto the podcast. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great. Well, yeah, we've been talking back and forth for a couple of weeks, and I know you've been pretty busy and you've been on tour and stuff like that. So do you want to tell us, first of all, what you've been up to?
So it's definitely different than the Foo Fighters material. I've been doing a lot of healing music and ambient music, actually with Rami Jaffee from the Foo Fighters. And me and Rami, we've been collaborating and for years, since we were in the Foo Fighters, even before, I guess, we were in the Foo Fighters. So we work together a lot, and we also have these pop songs. I call them positive pop songs. I'm very excited about that. I'm working on mixing with Sony, the 360. So it's like we're doing ambient mixes, surround sound, which is really great for ambient music. So that's been really fun. And I've been doing a lot of world music. So I've been playing with these Latin players like flamenco style guitar. And that's really been incredibly fun for me because I like playing different styles. I went to school for ethnomusicology, so I've always incorporated different styles of violin in what I do. And just, figuring out life and enjoying life as it goes.
Excellent. Well, you kind of preempted me because one of the big things that listeners of this podcast might be aware of the past few months is Shadows, where again, it's one of those tracks that you and Rami collaborated on. You talked about it's a really lovely piece of music as well. And do you want to tell us a bit about that one?
Yeah, that one is really, it was just a total improv. A lot of time what we do is we improv. So Rami will be on the keys and I'll be on the violin and I'll record the tracks. Like I'll record the microphone with the violin. I'll record Rami on the keyboards. And then I will add after that. So then I'll add over top and maybe Rami will add over top too. That one was really totally raw, pretty much. That was just like unedited piano, violin, and then I sang over top. And that one it took me a while to release that one because it's basically about the passing of my friends and my parents. And just the feeling that I still communicate with them and through dreams. And it's very magical and positive, but it took me a while to like feel comfortable talking about it, I guess, because it's, sensitive issues. But yeah, I do feel that. I feel that there is messages and there is a support system that we might not see. That is because the space around us is, we don't even know what that is yet, with this whole, the understanding our reality. So I'm very into that. I'm into Eastern philosophy and the study of of life and the meaning of life. And I think most musicians are in some way, whether or not they know it, because music is frequency and sound waves, and 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 frequency. We're all sound. We all emanate frequencies. We're energy beings. So it might be a little out there, but that's really been helping me get through life.
Yeah, because it does give that off that aura of like healing and wellness and kind of meditation and spirituality, doesn't it? If I may
Yeah,
say so.
that's
Yeah.
great. I'm glad it does, because that's how I feel. That's how I feel. Music in general. I mean, even, rock and roll, heavy metal, it all has an effect on us, and it can be liberating. It can be something that takes you out of your your mind, the constant mind chatter, right? Um, so I find that music across the board is one of my saving graces in life, and I think so much of us connect to, like, I mean, I would never be who I am without the music that I've listened to and experienced and also made. Um, so music is a portal, I think, to incredible understanding about who we are and what we're doing here. But then you take that to the other level and you start to realize that throughout, like 3,000 years ago in Kashmir, no relation to Led Zeppelin, but in Kashmir, they believed that consciousness was fundamental. And they had all these like ideas that to me seem so to really make sense today. Like throughout history, these ideas, without science and without telescopes, they understood things that just seemed kind of magical then. They were very magical. So there was very, like, it was the shamans, but it was the musicians of the cultures, the musicians that were the shamans that made the songs, that made the stories, that told the stories. Um, that kind of, I think that it's so relevant today when we're going through these massive changes in our time. I mean, we're living in this incredible time of massive change. And I think frequency and sound, and especially like the meditation part and that's like the underneath, like music in general is this like incredible, um, massive thing that for our lives. But then you go deeper into just listening to drones and a tone, and you're like, wow, there's a lot there in that one note. Like the potential is there. And like, I mean, with the Foo Fighters, they totally get it with the way that they play Dave is a very tone oriented, um, frequency oriented player, and the way that he plays. And um, they captivate the audience for hours, and that's like the magic of sound.
Yeah, it's amazing because I say this a lot when talk to musicians, but kind of touching on what you've just said, they've only been the same number of notes, musical notes,
Right.
since the beginning of time, but you can do so much with it, and look how much has been done with it over the course of hundreds and thousands of years, as you've just said. So
Isn't that crazy? I mean, there is the same amount of notes, except for the fact that there's tritones. Different cultures have different numbers of notes in their scale, which is so bizarre and interesting. And that's the great thing about a fretless instrument, because the guitar is only going to play the notes of our scale, of the Western scale. I suppose you can get you can use a slide. You can use a slide, but you still have frets. So on the violin, the ability to slide is what is, people, that's what they want so much from string players, is like, you have to slide the note, because you can't really get that effect so much on a keyboard string, like on a sample string. They're getting very good, the sample strings, but that there's things that you can't capture that you can when you're using a real string instrument. And that's part of it, is the ability to hit those tritones and those notes in between the notes.
And playing off like feel as well, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, I do think that I think all instruments are an extension of the intention of the player, intention. That's what I found with my study of sound and frequency, is the importance of intention. And that's why I think certain songs make it huge, and it's not that I suppose that has a lot to do with marketing, but I guess what I'm saying there is, the songs that resonate with us were made with this intention of, whatever the intention is at the time, but it's very powerful, the human intention and um, the way that we create music. And that also shifts when you add other people into the mix, and other people's intentions. And then it becomes a bigger force, like the intentions of a group. Um, so I've been studying that. It's very interesting.
It is. Well, I mean, we're 10 minutes in, and I think you've kind of learnt more in 10 minutes than in any had a handful of music lessons at school, and I think that's taught me more in 10 minutes than in probably kind of seven years at school or whatever. So that was great. We talked about Rami, obviously, big part of your career has been working with him. Where did that working relationship start?
Well, it was funny. We were kind of in similar scenes a long time ago. When I'm from the East Coast, Rami's from Los Angeles, and when I got here, um, I guess I was right after I got out of UCLA. I graduated from UCLA, and I was busking. I was playing violin with a friend on Venice Beach, and a manager came up and said, "Would you audition for this guy named Peter Himmelman?" He was married to Bob Dylan's daughter. So I went on tour with them. And that tour was when I met Jacob and Rami, but very briefly. Very briefly. And then we kept running into each other. And then I played with a band called the Geraldine Fibbers. And the Geraldine Fibbers were on Virgin Records as the same time as Rami and the Wallflowers were on the Virgin Records. So we did gigs together, and we did I think a few festivals. And then I started to play with a band called the Golden Smog. And the Golden Smog was members of the Jayhawks, Soul Asylum, Run Westy Run, Wilco, some great bands. That was Midwest. And then I ended up playing with those guys and also playing with Wallflowers. It was the same kind of, so that's when we started hanging out and became really good friends.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're originally from Massachusetts, and I guess you just go to LA because that's where as a musician the action was really.
No, I had no idea what I was doing. Most of my life has been more of like a leaf floating in the wind, not totally sure of what tree I'm on. Um, I had a very challenging childhood. I did a lot of drugs and I partied a lot, and I needed to get as far away as possible from Massachusetts. So first I went to Florida, Fort Lauderdale, with a friend, and there was not a music scene. It really was. It was like Fort Lauderdale was a ton of fun after high school, but it didn't, to me, seem like it was going to be very musical oriented. I saw myself going down a darker path. So I got a postcard from a friend who lived in Santa Monica from my hometown. Said, "Come live with me here. $350 a month." We shared a one bedroom apartment. And so I packed my bags, and I didn't have my violin because I was like pissed at the violin at that time. It's very hard. I didn't want to deal with it. I wanted to just play guitar and party and have a band. And so I came out with my guitar. I flew out to California by myself with my guitar and a bag, and I missed the violin. I would all of a sudden I started going to Santa Monica College to make up for my high school delinquency, and I saw kids on the grass playing the violin with the guitar, like fun, cool music. And I was like, wait a minute, I want to do that. So I started playing again. And then that's when I started playing cello. And funny enough, that's when I met Petra Hayden. and me, we played together back then. So crazy. Santa Monica College. We played together. I was in the orchestra. I think I played cello in the orchestra. But yeah, I loved her. And then she played in a band called That Dog. And then we crossed paths a lot over the years. And I remember crossing the paths with Nirvana because I was in the band, the Geraldine Fibbers, which was in the similar genre. And then the Foo Fighters started. And years later, when Rami called and said, "Do you want to come to the show?" I had met them briefly, but I didn't really know anybody. So, and I saw Petra play. I was like, "Ah, it was so great." I loved it. She played with the Foo Fighters. I saw them years ago. And then it was after that they said they were looking for a violin player. Would you like to join the band? I was like, yes.
Yeah, because I think she's in the sort of chronology of Foo Fighters. She's about a year or so ahead of you, isn't she? Because she did
Yeah.
those
She
acoustic.
did the acoustic shows. That's what I saw.
Expanded band, yeah, with Drew Hester and Rami.
Yeah. Drew was actually also in the band when I was in the band. It was the auxiliaries were me, Drew, Rami, and Pat were auxiliaries when I was in the band. And then Pat became a member. And then Rami became a member. And then me and Drew got kicked out. Not really, but not really. Me and Drew, I think they just decided they wanted to do rock and roll. I have hopes they'll call me again. But it's all good either way.
You got the call to do that run of shows in like 2007, 2008. Do you remember how that
2007. Yeah, I remember when I went to I guess it was because I was bartending. I had a band. I had great musicians from this band, High Respects. They were just such a great hip hop band. They still are. They're in Minneapolis. There's an incredible underground hip hop scene in Minneapolis. Atmosphere, Rhyme Sayers. It's just, I loved Minneapolis. I never thought I would go back to Los Angeles. When I left Los Angeles, I was like, no way. It was not my scene. I felt like it was too much of the external. I just didn't feel it was where I wanted to be. And I loved Minneapolis, and I still love Minneapolis very much. And I had a band. I was working I could like have a life and have a band, make music, and work a couple shifts as a waitress or bartender and make a living. And so when they came through town, it was like a Saturday night. I happened to have it off, and they had a night off. So we went out in Minneapolis, and it was so fun because I knew all the bartenders. We had all free drinks, and Dave was like, "Oh my God, this is so fun." So I think that made an impact on him. And then it was like 6 months later or so, Rami called, and I had a premonition. I've had a few premonitions in my life. And this was a big one because I was dating a guy, and he was a rapper from Trinidad, and I loved my life. And I saw the phone, and I was like, oh shit, this is going to be changing. This is going to change my life. Do I want to get this phone call? Of course I did. And he's like, "Hey, do you think you would want to come like play with the Foo Fighters maybe?" And I was like, let me check my schedule." Yeah. So So first I still stayed in Minneapolis, but it didn't. I stayed in Minneapolis for a couple of months, and I was like, I'm moving back to Los Angeles. This is crazy. And I did. I moved back to LA, and I've been here ever since.
So you literally went from waitressing to touring with the Foo Fighters.
I literally went from being a German barmaid in a freaking cellar, but I loved that job too. Funny enough, that job was so fun because you could I served shots, big mugs of beer. It was so fun. I loved my people I worked with. It was and they gave me all the time off I wanted to do. I basically worked a couple days a week and just did music. And then I had a couple different bartending gigs and waitressing gigs here and there, but that was a really fun gig. And and I remember hearing Eminem with his song, the Gotta Get It, whatever that song is. Like right now it's too early in the morning for me here. But I was like, it was crazy. That's to show you that you never know what can happen. I was in my mid-30s at that time. I mean, whoever thought that kind of thing would happen?
So get the call to go with the Foos then, and it's like the Echo Silence Patience Grace era.
I literally practiced all the parts. I got there and Dave's like, "Hey, thanks for coming to join the band." I was like, "What?" I thought it was audition, but no, it was like solid. It's pretty
I was just
amazing.
going to say, what happens then? You just work on things yourself, you go to rehearsal, and then Dave's quite driven in terms of he strikes you as he knows what he wants. But did you get any kind of wiggle room to sort of freestyle
Yeah.
a bit, or did you
Oh,
just?
absolutely. I mean, the thing is that there's certain things. There's one is that you got to really, obviously you practice the material and you know the material inside and out. You show up on time, probably early for Dave, always early because he is on point. He is, um, show up early, do all your practicing, and then be open to what evolves from the exchange from I did play cello, but I wasn't the super solid cello player. And when I got there, I realized their single at the time was on cello. So here I am playing cello in front of like 100,000 people for my first show. And it was like, ah, I was a little nervous for that. But thankfully, rock and roll is not that difficult. So on cello, wasn't that hard of a part. And it worked.
Yeah. Well, you say about being open. I guess if you look at all the music you've collaborated on through your career, and you talked about the sort of flamenco stuff and hip hop, and you've done just about everything, so you can't really get more open and receptive than that, really, can you?
That's wonderful. And that's the bonus of playing something like the violin. It's very versatile. It's almost like a voice. You can sing really any style kind of, and it's like the violin. And I did resent my classical training a lot because I started at 4 and I felt like it was torture for many years. But I'm so grateful now because starting at 4 was like such a bonus, even though it gave me scoliosis and all that stuff. But it's all good because the other thing I'm doing is I've been studying biomechanics of the body and really reversing any age related issues and music playing related issues that I've had. So eventually I'm going to put together a platform and share that, which I'm really excited about because it's incredible. It's like music is a portal, I think, to so many things like a happier existence and all these things, but so is the body and movement. And they combined, like you combine music and movement, it's like, forget it. It's incredible.
Wow, that's cool. So the first run of shows that you did, I think were they in the UK? They were
Yeah.
over here, weren't you? Did some big festivals.
Yes. And we did like the BBC and yeah, it was huge. You probably know more than me right now because my memory's a little shoddy.
Yeah, same here. But the BBC thing was
That was incredible.
it was Brighton, and there was like 3 performances throughout the day for the radio.
Yeah. And it was like, yeah, I mean, I know I look back at some of those, like if I think about them or look at photos, I'm like, how did I do that? Like, it was pretty crazy because I must have been really nervous.
Hello, Brighton. Please welcome, live for you on Radio 1, the Foo Fighters!
Interestingly, because we talked about the kind of expanded band acoustic stuff they were doing with Petra and with Drew Hester, and I guess that was an indication that's something they were introducing into their sound generally, because, well, obviously you came along after that, and then over the next kind of decade ended up working. There's a sort of a live history and then a recording history to your involvement with them, isn't there? So
Yes,
I guess
yeah.
it's kind of them expanding as sonically, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it was like, yeah, those shows, it was a great introduction to how every artist that I've worked with has a relationship to their audience and to, of course, to each other in their band. But this was an incredible introduction to how the Foo Fighters, their relationship to the audience and to each other. I think it's so much how they're still, they're still so well known and so famous because they have this incredible connection with the audience that is really authentic and without any like to be able to just show up with just their instruments and put them on stage and all these people are just right there. It's like what I do really love performing in small venues and smaller venues because it's like I think there's so much importance in the connection between the audience and how that influences your performance. And there's something so powerful in being in a bar or a small club or a theater or a small venue. Not that it's not fun to play a stadium or an arena. It's just different. There's this space between you that's and the lights and everything's it makes it different. That's all. So that was a really magical introduction to playing with them.
Yeah. Did you have a favourite song to play live with them?
You know what? I'm so funny. I don't have favorites. I'm a lover of most everything that like I love their songs. And Echoes on that record, there was just I thought that there was so many beautiful songs. There was that song that I sang with Dave, the duet. I cannot remember the name right now because I'm so bad. But I loved singing backgrounds. I love the song Marigold, of course. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so cool that you got to play that with them because it's like, even though it's not a hit and it's not attributed as a Foo Fighters song, it's such a significant milestone in his career, that song, wasn't it? So
I know.
the fact that he was kind of playing that again for a bit and
I know.
you got to do it with him, that's just really cool.
I know. There's so many cool moments with those. I mean, with the music and yeah, I mean, and his, the ability, he always there was a lot of room to improvise, which, I love. And you don't have to play the specific parts per se, even though the parts, of course, are similar. But within that structure, there was just a lot of room, which is wonderful.
Yeah, sure. Can we talk about Wembley Stadium?
Sure.
Despite what you've just said about smaller shows and
I mean, that's a whole different, it's like Wembley was Dave was so psyched about those shows. And we were all so psyched that I don't think they had played it yet, or if they had, not like as many nights as we were playing. We played 2 nights. All I know is that everybody was psyched about it. And it was also very nerve-wracking. We were going to do the center of the arena, but the stages were built so they could go around in a circle, but then we had to push it back because of safety issues or something. So it did change a little, like that there was a rotating stage inside the stage. So that was a little nerve-wracking because things were changing, and when things change last minute, if things get, even more, makes you more nervous because you have things arranged a certain way and then it changes in a big situation like that. It was nerve-wracking, but it was so fun. I mean, and to meet the guys from Led Zeppelin, I mean, come on. That was insane. It was so fun. Yeah. It was like a dream come true.
The listeners to this podcast are probably sick of me talking about it, but I was lucky enough to be there on the Saturday.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yay.
And you can't really, as you said, you can't mention that show without talking about Led Zeppelin, can you really? Because to get half of them.
It was just insane. I mean, because I watched when they played from up in the chairs with Rami. We were just like, I mean, it was just like a life change, like, come on. It was insane. I mean, I look at that video and I'm like, look at all the people. And then I look at myself and I'm like, girl, you go. I mean, I didn't look any nervous at all, but I was probably dying of nerves.
No, you're having a proper headbang during the Pretender, aren't you? At the start,
I know. I loved banging my head during the Pretender. I think the great thing about I just performing is such an interesting thing, because I think nerves are really good. It's good to get nervous. And when you look at it from that perspective, I remember there was beta blockers were big at that time. I don't know if you remember that. It was like pills that you take that you don't get wasted, but you less nervous. But I didn't want to take them. I remember like my therapist or whatever is like, "Oh, you could take some beta blockers." And I was like, "No, I'm good." Um, because I feel like even something like that might mute your emotions a little or your ability. I don't know. I just didn't want to do it. And I remember feeling like, I guess I remember just feeling it was that I will say throughout my life, there's been times where you just have that feeling where everything is perfect. And when you walk out on stage with those guys, it was like, it was just like you're like some sort of superhero or something. It was just like that energy takes over and the collective and the crowd being so into it. It's magic. It takes over any kind of fear.
Well, as someone who was there, it was a very, very special night. And you mentioned the stage. I don't remember a lot about the
It
concert
was
itself
a while
because
ago.
it was a while ago. Yeah, but I do remember getting in there and looking at the stage setup, and then as you say, you've got the kind of revolving stage, and then you've got this massive runway down the middle. And I was
That's
just like,
amazing.
wow, this is you just go, this has got the makings of a really special show
Yeah, yeah,
already
it
before.
was yes, you're totally right. That's what it was. It was just the energy was palpable and powerful, and it was great. It was unbelievable. I can't believe that I've been lucky enough I played Wembley Stadium a bunch more times with Pink, which was also amazing. Different, but also amazing. It's the space is amazing, like, it's just, stadiums are huge, but that place, Wembley, there's something really magical and special, I think, about Wembley. It's my favorite stadium.
Yeah, and it's the history behind it as well. I
Yeah,
mean, like a couple of weeks ago, it was like the Live Aid
I know.
anniversary, and I know
Yeah,
it's the old stadium, but look at all the acts that played there that
I
day and have
know.
played there since.
It's incredible. I agree, yeah.
Any other recollections of the Wembley shows that you want to share with us, or
Um, any other recollections? Well, I think that my memory is pretty pretty cloudy. I just remember, um, how excited we all were, really. And how I think we really all felt like it was probably for me, it was definitely one of the best shows I'd ever done up to that point. And it was just like mind blowing. I think that whole, like, it was like it sent us on cloud nine for a very long time after that. So it was just a magical time.
absolutely? So, again, in terms of your work with the Foo Fighters mentioned earlier, we've sort of explored the live side of things. Then there's the recording side, which came a few years later when you were enlisted to play on
Uh-huh.
Wasting Light, which is right up there with one of their best albums. Of some people
I
would say
love
it
that
is their
record.
best. Yeah, and as we know, it was done in Dave's home in his garage, wasn't it, in
Yeah.
LA, which is makes for an unusual, interesting environment, and it because he wanted that kind of back to basics, analog.
And it was a beautiful studio as well. It was still a beautiful studio the way they set it up. And yeah, that was also an incredible experience.
So you're playing violin on I Should Have Known. So
Mhm.
where in the chronology of things did you come into the session? Can you remember?
Yeah, I was there hanging out for a bit, and I would just, be an observer and listen. And then he would say, "I want you playing this song." And we would work out parts. He was very open and wasn't like, just play this. Never, Dave's never like that. It's always like everything's a collaboration with him. He definitely, of course, has ideas, really great string ideas. So does Rami. Rami's like an incredible string arranger. And so yeah, so it was very I think part of the reason that he wanted to do it in his space is to the authenticity, you know, just to be real and just to be like, you know, this is laying like his heart on the table, which is really and to like it's kind of exposing of his of everybody's like, you know, they're just real down to earth and real I mean, even with all their success, I think they've really been able to keep a strong focus of what matters in life, you know, which is music and family and all this stuff. I mean, we all go through our things, but they're very, very solid people.
Sure. On that track, what's nice about it is you're not just playing violin and just kind of sticking a layer on top of something else, which goes on top of something else. It starts with the violin, and then the track kind of builds with you until it and then it gets heavier, and then there's a little step change with the drums coming. It's just a great track, isn't it?
I love that track. I totally agree. I think I sang backgrounds on that too. There was a couple, one or two that I sang backgrounds on. I'm not sure if it was that one. I love that track. I do.
Me too. And the other thing which must have been a eye opener is being produced by Butch Vig, the legendary
I know.
Butch Vig. What was he like?
He was amazing. He was so because honestly, recording the violin, sometimes I've been, you know, like I've cried with producers and like it can be really rough. It can be really rough. So Butch Vig is the opposite of that. He was so like calm and very he worked with me and he was very, I mean, it was just such a positive experience all around. Very supportive, which you need sometimes as a string player in the studio.
Yeah, and there was quite a roll call of guest musicians on that album too. So you had Chris Novoselic and Bob Mould and Fee Waybill and people like that. So in some pretty cool company there as well in terms of guest appearances.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, Chris is incredible. Such a beautiful human. And yeah, it was, I mean, pretty much, I mean, there's so much like life altering experiences in this time for me that was definitely one of them. It's meeting all those great people and performers and being a part of something that was so magical and special.
And then you were back for the Concrete and Gold album too, and you couldn't have had three more different songs to play on that album. So do you remember much about those sessions? It's completely different setting, back in a more traditional sort of
we
studio.
were in the studio. Yep. I remember I have a memory of me and Rami in the hallway, him on the keys, me on the violin coming up with these parts. And Dave walking by and being like, yeah, that sounds great. That's my memory of that. It was just, you know, I mean, once again, I just love Dave's songs and I love, of course, doing strings. So that was another incredible experience for me in the studio.
Yeah. I was just going to mention quickly the three songs. So you've got like Happy Ever After, which is one of your violin songs. And it's like Dave always says that his music upbringing was an acoustic guitar and a Beatles songbook. And it feels like that was him living his Beatles songbook life in that song. It kind of crystallizes that, doesn't it? That track.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it does. Yeah. And I think he has a little bit of that influence here and there a lot, you know, like as we all do. I mean, how could we not be influenced by the freaking Beatles?
Yeah, absolutely. And then you violin again on The Line, which is one of my favourite Foo Fighters songs.
I love
the lyrics
that.
are amazing. Yeah, and the lead guitar's like a bit of a earworm as well, but there is that kind of wall of sound that you're chipping in on there.
Nice. Yeah. Wall of sound would describe it exactly.
And then the really interesting one where you're on the cello is the closing track, Concrete and Gold. And the reason that's quite interesting is, can you remember who sang backup on that?
No, tell me.
It's someone that you wouldn't have on your like Foo Fighters bingo card. It's Sean Stockman from Boys to Men.
That's right. Yeah, he freaking had a great voice. He did so good on that. Yeah, that's right. That is so funny. I love that song, and I love playing the cello standing up and more rocking. And that was really fun. And that's right. That guy did so good on that song. That was I like that song a lot.
Yeah. And again, there was a lot of guest musicians on that album. So were you around when the likes of Paul McCartney and Justin Timberlake and Alison Mossart were there?
I don't think I met Justin Timberlake, but I have met Paul McCartney. He's very sweet. He's incredible. Yeah.
He's just the coolest man ever. Yeah.
I know he is.
So
he really is the coolest man ever. Yeah, I agree. 100%. He's just and he's also just kind, and you wouldn't know that he is who he is because I mean that he's that, he's very personable and down to earth.
So did you meet him at those sessions then? The
I
Concrete and
think
Gold,
I did see him at that session, but I for sure met him, when we were playing in London, or I think we definitely went to see him in what's his hometown?
Liverpool.
Yeah. We saw them in Liverpool, and I met him then too. That was amazing. Dave got on stage and played.
Yeah, if Dave's in the UK, Paul McCartney will be around somewhere because they seem to be really good friends, don't they? So
yeah, and he also when we played on the MTV Awards, I think remember they did this. They did like the string contest they were supposed to be with kids, but then they had problems getting the kids with across the state lines or something like that. So it was a lot of he was a conductor of that orchestra that we had behind us. That was great. And he was so he arranged some stuff for that. And that was amazing. That was the Pretender. And we played the Pretender on, I think it was MTV Awards. Anyways, he's just lovely. I really appreciate his honesty and talent and beauty.
Awesome. And the final performance credit I was going to mention, which sits in between the two that you've got that's Foo Fighters related, was the Sound City Players with Dave and Rami and the great Jimmy Keltner, the legendary session
I know
drummer as well. If I Were Me, it was the track.
I love that song. I know. Yeah, that was really special. That was a special. I mean, I loved playing with that was like Stevie Nicks. I mean, come on. Like everybody involved in that, I was just like, oh my God, what an incredible opportunity to just be around the most incredible musicians in the world. And then we toured and the recording was just another experience that changed my life. It was just magical. And Jim Keltner is such a great field drummer, like a drummer that's that really plays like a musician, like a songwriter, like the emotion. He has a lot of emotion in his playing. And of course, playing with Rami is one of my favorite things ever.
He just seems like such a happy dude, Rami. Whenever you see him in any...
He's the Rami Lama. He's a guru.
Brilliant. So just like a few final questions then. You've been around the Foo Fighters kind of like creative process, I guess. What's anything that about their creative process that you like might surprise people that we kind of don't know about?
Well, I do think it comes back to just, for me, from my perspective, is that and I think that they're so real in the sense, like, they don't act like there's any, the audience artist division like isn't there. It's just like wherever they are, they're in a room with their friends jamming kind of feeling like you get when you're around them. It's just like you're just part of the team. And I think that makes what they create so listenable, and why we're drawn to it, because it's really just being honest about how we feel, whether it's singing, writing the lyrics, or playing the instrument. It's just real honesty about an experience. It's sharing experiences. And I feel like they've held on to that through the years. And that's something that's so relatable, because we all share these fundamental qualities of, love and pain, and what it takes to get through the day. And so music makes that easier. And I think that their process, the way that they share their innerness, or their their soul, or whatever, is very relatable. That would be my take.
So, and how would you say that working with them's influenced your path as a musician from
my
there
God.
on?
Absolutely. I mean, it totally changed my life in so many ways. And and also, as far as just being around this kind of incredible energy and abilities, it definitely influences me every day, still, to these days, to now. Yeah. The experiences, because I think that's really what we're here for, is to be really present in the moment and to have experiences. At the same time, that is also part of everything that we've done in the past, so it's all a part of the now. And I think that, I'm forever grateful, and have so much feeling of gratitude and appreciation for those moments and those experiences, but they live on in me every day.
Fantastic. Well, that's amazing. Thanks so much for your time for doing this. I was just going to finish by asking you. Yeah, I know you talked about at the start some things you've been up to and what you've got coming up, but just like anything in the immediate sort of future that we should look out for.
Yeah, I have songs coming out. I'm very excited. I have songs with Rami coming out, and ambient music as soon as I can get it together, which is hopefully going to be by the fall. I'll have a single. Yeah, I'm very excited. And I have a platform for healing for musicians, for body alignment. It's called Ground State. Very excited about that too. I'm working on that. Just all sorts of fun stuff.
So that was Jessy Greene, and what an absolute pleasure she was to interview. We covered off quite a lot there, so I hope you all enjoyed it. There hasn't been a lot else to report from the world of Foo Fighters this week, which probably means something will happen on Wednesday or Thursday, just after this episode has gone out, which is often the case. But anyway, we'll keep our ears to the ground, and hope you all have a great week. I'll be back with you next Wednesday for another episode. In the meantime, thanks for listening, and take care.